Good afternoon, football fans. Memorial Stadium on another great afternoon for football.
It's football day in Nebraska, and 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. This is 1620 The Pregame, a look ahead to today's Husker game. 1620 The Pregame is presented by Chandler Conway, personal injury attorneys you can trust. Now from the Blur Parties tailgate at Memorial Stadium, here's John Bishop and Michael Severe.
He's in there. Touchdown!
Well, after a 2-week wait between games, and of course, anytime it comes after a loss, it feels just a little bit longer. Nebraska football is back on the green turf of Memorial Stadium, Tom Osborne Field, as today Nebraska tries to get back on the winning track as they take on the Michigan State Spartans. It's game 2 of the 2025 Big Ten schedule. And welcome everybody inside of the Blur Events tailgate here at Memorial Stadium. John Bishop, Michael Severe, welcome to 1620. The pregame will be here for the next 2 hours to tell you all about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Got a lot to talk about today and already some interesting results going up on the scoreboard. Michigan, who's also playing for the first time in 2 weeks, struggling a little bit here with Wisconsin. They're up 3, Michigan is, but they're likely going to go into the locker room only up by a field goal against a Wisconsin team that has been a very disappointing squad this year.
Hey, John, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
This is a while ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember how many points the Cincinnati Bearcats scored against Nebraska?
17.
17 points.
Yeah.
They have basically doubled that in the first half against Iowa State. Now up 31 to 7-3.
Yeah, I believe it's
31-3.
Yeah, 31-3. So, yeah,
Cincinnati
Cincinnati
just ran a little fake and just took it up the middle and scored.
So while the Nebraska loss maybe isn't aging as well based on Michigan, the Nebraska win against Cincinnati definitely is aging better than it did a couple of weeks ago.
I was talking to Grim about this and saying, I don't think it matters as much. I know people they'll talk about it. It'll be a talk show topic. Sure. But there are matchups. For whatever reason, Wisconsin plays Michigan well.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking back at the last 10 matchups. It's like 6-4 Wisconsin. So Wisconsin just plays them well. So it's harder. I think the other way, though, is that it does give you, in strength of record, a top 25 win by a team you beat. So you beat Cincinnati. They turn around and win a top 25 game against number 14 Iowa State. That does help you in strength of record.
How are people going to react around here if Cincinnati's in the top 25 and Nebraska's not after this
I know.
Because that's probably going to happen if this score holds.
Yeah.
Even if Nebraska puts a big number up on Michigan State.
Yeah, because they get the better win, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they get the win over Kansas, too, which was a good win.
It was a good win and a road win.
Yeah, so that's true. But I think the win matters more. I don't like when people go, well, you lost to Michigan, but they lost to Wisconsin. Those different games, man. They're just completely different games. You're coming off a bye. Michigan's playing a team that, for whatever reason, plays them well. It's not the same.
Let's take a look at our warm-up today on 1620 The Pregame, presented by Chandler Conway. Is a 4-0 October in play? Yeah, I know. This is only the first game of October, but Nebraska's got a chance to do something they have not done in a long time.
You know why it's in play?
Because they're going to be favored.
It's the first one.
It's the first one. They haven't lost yet. And they're going to be favored in all 4 games.
Favored all 4, yeah.
Will Michigan State be able to stop Dylan? Aiden Childs' legs. Could that be the key to a Spartan upset? We got a special teams war today.
Yes, sir.
And remember, special teams has been the difference maker in each of the last 3 games in this series. We'll talk more about that. Our Husker history mystery is schooling Saban. And we'll take a look at all the other games going on today. Got Vandy, Bama later this afternoon. Miami, Florida State. And we've mentioned Iowa State, Cincinnati.
They call that targeting.
Targeting.
I think the offensive player led with his head first. Watch the offensive player drop his head.
He does. He drops
his head.
And he's taller.
Yeah, he's dropping his head into the defense.
So the Cincinnati defender would not have hit him there if the player hadn't gone down.
He drops his head to that spot to be able to hit it there.
But honestly, that's the only thing that's gone bad for Cincinnati today is they've had one player ejected for targeting, and there's another question mark here, but they're up 31-7 right now. So there's your warm-up today here on 1620, the pregame. But one of the big stories today is going to be the weather. It is a bright, sunny day, very, very warm. Interesting that it was almost exactly 1 year ago to the day.
Rutgers?
with the Rutgers game.
Wow.
With very similar weather conditions. Now, the difference was that day the wind shifted 30 minutes before kickoff. Matt Rule pulled the old okey doke on Greg Schiano.
Yeah.
He took the ball in the first half, giving Rutgers the choice in the second half. They took the ball in the second half, but because the wind had already turned around, Nebraska said, that's great because we're going to take the win in the fourth quarter. That ended up being important because Buschini had a couple of punts that helped win that one possession game.
That game was one of those where fans think they know. We're watching the pregame, and Nebraska's doing their kickoffs in the pregame, and they're not even reaching the 15-yard line going towards the south
because
stadium.
The wind was coming out of the south.
They're not even reaching that. All of a sudden, we look up, and we're like, why is Nebraska choosing to kick off this direction? And they kicked it in the end zone. And we're like, holy moly, the wind shifted.
Exactly.
We didn't know. They knew. They got meteorologists on their side.
Well, they did. They certainly do. But it's going to be kind of a similar weather day today. It's going to be very hot. Going to be 90, 91 degrees.
Damn.
But take a look at the chart that we put up for those of you watching in on our YouTube stream or our Twitter stream at 1620, the Zone's YouTube channel. The sustained winds, which is the line in purple, are basically going to be in the low 20s.
Oh, that's not bad.
And you look at the flag. Now, the gusts are the interesting thing because the gusts during
20s.
game time will be basically up to upper 30s mile an hour. So, again, very similar to that game against Rutgers. There's been a lot of talk, of course, this week, Michael, about the weather and about the wind and how much it might affect the quarterbacks today. Nebraska's average depth of target isn't particularly deep. It's one of the lowest in the country.
Yeah.
But even with that said, do you anticipate that maybe Michigan State and Nebraska may cheat a little bit in with their safeties, knowing that if they're playing with the wind, knowing that if a quarterback's going against the wind, they're not necessarily going to try to beat you deep?
I'm going to go making that two different questions.
Okay.
So first of all, I do believe that Michigan State with a week off and very smart coaches and a guy I like to be head coach in Jonathan Smith, I think they looked at that Cincinnati game and they're going to come out in a shell and they're going to make Dillon keep the ball in front of them. That's why I think Nebraska needs to come out and run the ball early. The other part of that is, and we talk about this all the time, this is not Memorial Stadium of 1995. This is not Memorial Stadium of 2004. This is the new Memorial Stadium where even though, yes, the wind's blowing, when you drop below where South Stadium is, when you drop below all that, it's a lot easier to throw low passes than it is to throw those highs or punts or kick your field goals. So I think the majority of passes won't be that effective. As long as you're not throwing it up in the air and trying to either throw a fade in the end zone or a deep post, I think most won't be affected. And I personally, I've said this for years, I'd much rather throw into the wind than throw it at my back. It's much harder to judge how to throw the ball with the wind at your back. You see a lot of overthrows. If I know I got to put more on it, fine, I put more on it. And I know Dillon has that kind of arm. So, one, I don't think it's going to affect the majority of the passes much. And the other one is, this stadium is not what it used to be in terms of wind, I think.
We will see. We will certainly see today. And it's going to make for very interesting. You got two really good punters in this game.
Yes, you do.
Maybe the best punter in the country.
Yeah, he's number one.
In Eckley for Michigan State. And, of course, Archie Wilson, who has not punted in this stadium in conditions like this, but we saw what he was able to do against Michigan. So it will be rather fascinating. It will be a story today. One other thing about the weather, Michael, and it's not about the wind, it's about the temperature.
Yeah.
It's going to be very warm today. It's going to be incumbent on those sports performance people to make sure that those players have the electrolytes.
Yeah.
We saw what happened on Thursday night with Mac Jones. It was kind of a warm night in California, and he was cramping up in that game. So these are professional athletes. It can happen. So keep an eye on just these guys and how their conditioning is, because it is going to be abnormally warm today. The advantage for Nebraska is this weather's going to have been kind of the same for the last couple of weeks.
A little bit warmer, yeah.
But it is a little bit warmer today.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on that, because remember in 2016, Tommy Armstrong had to play through cramps to beat that Oregon team.
Here's the thing. You're not doing the job today in terms of getting your electrolytes. You did the job on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You got your folic acid. I know that's for pregnant women, but it also helps with cramps. You've eaten your bananas. You've had your salt. You've had your pickles. You've had your electrolytes. So when you come this Saturday, you're not cramping up. If you start cramping up on Saturday, that means you didn't do the job that you needed to do earlier in the week.
Yeah. Well,
nice interception by Illinois. And he looked like I thought for a second he was going to bring it all the way back.
Yeah, Illinois has extended their lead over Purdue. It's now up to 3 scores. Well, taking a look at the latest K-Ford numbers, there really wasn't much of a change from the Michigan game. The win total, which was almost not. It was really no change. 8.6. That's where it was a week ago. So it's still up over a full win from the preseason, and the numbers on the 10 and 9 win options right now. Nebraska's still a 54% chance of winning 9 games. Nice. And you can see if you look at the yellow column to the left next to each of the teams, that's the change in win percentages from the previous week. And of course, this is judging it against the bye, but really not a whole lot of change.
I thought that meant that Nebraska had a plus 1% chance of winning the national championship.
Oh, I see. NC is no change.
I was like, what the hell? Really?
NC is no change.
What odds do I get for that?
Yeah, pretty good
I got
odds.
It. No change.
But today it's 85% chance of a win. That's why the spread has been at 11.5. In some places you could get it under 10 earlier this week, but since it's gone to 11.5 early this week, it hasn't really changed a whole lot.
Okay.
The only thing that's really fluctuated has been the total. I've seen 48.5. I've seen 49.5.
You expected it to drop. I expected it to drop because of the win.
Right.
And it's sitting at 47.5 right now. And the numbers up to 13.5 by ESPN.
So it's going up.
13.5. Not shocking. And that's even money at minus 110. So yeah, I thought the number would come down in terms of total and go up, because the number for most of analytics is 15. That's what it was coming in the week. And when people were freaking out over like 10.5, I was like, you realize this is low. This is low from what the computers say it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
The Nebraska team total might be an interesting option today. Because I'm guessing that team total for Nebraska is probably around, 30?
Well, the team total would be, because if you just take 47.5 and subtract it by the 13.5, so that puts you at 33.
33. So
like 32.5 probably
right.
is their team total.
That might be an inviting team total to look at today for Nebraska if you believe in them.
Most people, I picked 31-17 or 34-17, one of those two. I can't remember. I pick it on Monday. But either way, it's pretty close with the team total will be.
Well, we got a lot to come here on 16-20, the pregame. When we come back, we're going to address the 4-0 question. Can Nebraska do what they have not done in 9 years, and that is win 4 games in a row in the conference?
Did you pull the quote up?
Which quote?
One of the greatest questions ever asked by a media member. Wasn't quite a media member, it was a photographer. The great question of, you really don't like October, do you?
Oh, yes, Bo Pelini. Yes, that's right.
What?
Did not like October. We're also going to take a look at when Nebraska has the football in this matchup today against Michigan State. Huskers and Spartans. Sparty has won the last 2. Each of the last 3 games, the win total was just 3 points. Special teams has been big in these games, but Nebraska's hoping it doesn't have to come down to that here this afternoon at Memorial Stadium. Participating sponsors of 1620 the pregame are the Sedoro Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Parties, see how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. The food line is already bustling. People have been enjoying the drink today. We've already had our first round of entertainment and games. We got all these games up on our TVs
How
today.
How about this? 1 second left on the clock. From the 3-yard line, Iowa State runs quarterback draw. And I think they scored. They're reviewing it right now, but they had 1 second, and that was what don't kick the field goal. Don't try to throw it. They ran quarterback draw, and I think Rocco Beck scored.
31-13.
If this holds up.
If the score holds, and the PAT will be pending. And, of course, we're only 20 minutes away from Cubs-Brewers game 1, the game that everybody's worried about.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, I've seen Cub jerseys around
the
here
alumni
today.
band already came through. I was excited about that.
We will be back here live at the Blur Events tailgate in downtown Lincoln, across the way from Memorial Stadium, as we continue with 1620 the pregame on 1620 the zone and 1019 the keg.
1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to 1620 The Pregame.
John and Michael back with you on 1620 The Pregame, Nebraska and Michigan State. Of course, we are brought to you each and every week by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust. ChandlerConway.com and Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. So, Michael, I went back and I looked for a couple of things.
Yeah.
Number one, when's the last time Nebraska won 4 games in a row against the conference? Well, you got to go back to 2016 when Mike Riley went 9-3.
No way. Hold on.
No, I know. 2016.
2016?
2016.
We never mentioned that. Never mentioned that year.
Never mentioned that
It's
year.
either 09 or 2016 for most stuff that's happened.
Right. That's when they beat Northwestern Illinois, Indiana on the road, and Purdue. I also look back. Okay, when was Nebraska favored in that many games in a row? Because they were favored in all 4 of those games. You got to go back to 2013 when they were favored against Illinois, Purdue, Minnesota, and Northwestern. But they went 3-1 in those games. They lost at Minnesota in the game where Tim Beck refused to run Amir Abdullah because he was averaging 9 yards a carry.
Yeah.
2012, they also had 4 games in a row in conference where they were favored. It was Penn State, Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin in the conference championship.
Yeah.
We know what happened there. We don't need to dwell on that. 2011, Bo Pelini favored in 5 straight games in the conference. Yeah. But they went 4-1. They lost here at home by 1 as a 17.5-point favorite to Northwestern.
Yeah, they would have probably risen to like 9th or 10th if they win that game.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in 2010, they had 8 straight games as a favorite in the Big 12, but they went 6-2 in those games, and they were bookended. Lost to Texas here in the Red Out Around the World game, and then lost that controversial game at Texas A&M near the end of the season. The point is this. Nebraska has had opportunities in the last 15 years as a favorite in consecutive games. They will also be favored today, next week at Maryland, more than likely, the following week at Minnesota, more than likely, and at home against Northwestern. There's an opportunity here for a 4-0 month. But as we've seen, putting together those 4 games for Nebraska in conference has been very difficult.
No, it is. And it's not just Nebraska. I think if you went through and took out probably Ohio State and took out Oregon and maybe Penn State, I think you'd see that for almost everybody. It's hard to win 4 games in a row in conference because of things like Wisconsin, for some reason, having the number of Michigan every now and then. Or for whatever reason, well, you know the reason, Michigan State, Michigan. It's such a heated rivalry. It's one of those, Ohio State, Michigan. Something's going to always happen weird. So I think if you look back, I think that happens a lot. But for Nebraska, there's always been something, this goes back to Bo, where they almost get too content. You know, they get a win, and I know that Nick Saban talked about it this morning. He almost likes being able to motivate a team after a loss more than he does after a win. You know, I can work on a bunch of stuff. I can tell them this. They feel bad about themselves. I can jump on them. They feel good about themselves. The girlfriend feels good about them, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, like last night, I went to the Central Creighton Prep game. If I could have, and I don't bet on high school sports, but if I could have, I would have taken Creighton Prep easily because of the fact that I knew Central last week had the biggest win in the last decade beating Westside. There's no way they're going to have the same motivation the next week. They can't. And that happens a lot in the Big Ten, too. And Nebraska suffered from that a ton. And how many of those games did they lose where they were either double-digit favorites or at least close to that? A lot of them were. A lot of them were. That was Bo's thing. He lost a lot of those games.
He did. We asked a question earlier this week on unsportsmanlike conduct. Barring any major shakeup, Nebraska will be favored in every game in October. If they don't reach 4-0 in October and drop one of those games they, quote, should win, how disappointed would you be? 57% said they would be disappointed a little bit. 33% said they would be disappointed a lot. And 10% said that they would be disappointed not at all. They wouldn't be disappointed at all. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. There's a history factor, obviously, and I understand that. Just the odds of Nebraska parlaying because of what they have been as a program are very difficult. But I contend that this is an opportunity to take one of those symbolic steps that Nebraska failed to do 2 weeks ago against Michigan. That would have been a symbolic step forward for the Matt Rule program.
Of course.
This, too, a 4-0 month, not a 3-1 month, a 4-0 month would be a symbolic step forward because you're going to be favored in every game. You're going to be favored by double digits in at least 2 of them, and that would be, and imagine the momentum. We talked about what it would have been like if Michigan would have, or if Nebraska would have beat Michigan last week. The conversations these last 2 weeks would have been entirely different. But imagine a 7-1 start to November with a potentially ranked USC team coming in and still dates against Penn State and Iowa. The possibilities there. I mean, you're in the college football playoff conversation and all of that stuff. Hell, you're in the conference championship game conversation if you can manage this month successfully.
Yeah, I certainly hope USC is ranked. That's going to make that game even better. And I have a bet against Sip on the Notre Dame game. He's got Notre Dame. I got USC. So it's funny. The people that bet, what was the number 2 one that had 57%?
The 57%, they would be disappointed a little bit.
See, I would not be. Literally, if you go 3-1 in this, I think you've accomplished basically what you thought you could accomplish starting this season. I think in terms of fan bases, I'm not talking about what the team thinks, what the players think, coaches think. I'm talking about the fan base. Most people were on 8-4 and 9-3.
Yeah.
If you go 3-1, you're sitting in a situation where if you can go 3-1 in the last third, you're at 9-3.
But
if you go 2-2 over the last ones, now you're 8-4, where most people thought they were. So I wouldn't be disappointed at all if they went 3-1. Now, if they go 4-1, it's awesome. I'd be great to see that. Or 4-0. I just think that 3-1 is most likely in the Big Ten, no matter what the lines are. That's the most likely thing. You've got to go to Minnesota on a Friday night after playing a mid-afternoon game in Maryland where you're not going to get back home until very late at night, have a short week, go to Minnesota where you haven't won since the first year of Riley, maybe like 2014, 2015.
That sounds right.
2015.
That sounds right.
That's not hard. That's not easy to do. And it's hard to beat that guy when you're in Nebraska.
Yeah, it is.
So you should be pretty pleased if you get the 3-1. I think.
I would be a little disappointed. I would go with a little disappointed.
If the loss is to Northwestern, I would be disappointed.
Very disappointed.
Right. If the loss is going on your first road trip to Maryland, a team that if they beat Washington next week or whatever, if that's the first loss in this month, I wouldn't be overly disappointed. I mean, that's a hard game. You haven't loaded everybody up.
Right.
Besides driving 2.5 hours to Kansas City, you haven't loaded everybody up, got your road group together, take them on the road into a hostile environment. You haven't done that yet. If you lose that game, are people going to really be mad?
I don't know. I mean, there's a difference between being a little disappointed and being mad.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can be a little disappointed. I mean,
because you've already chalked up Maryland as a win?
Some people probably have.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they have because I'm guessing most people haven't watched Maryland this year.
I mean, before the season. Like they chalked up before the season. Look, man, that's not going to be easy. Going on the road in this. If you go look at the numbers too, we you know who did this was Dirk. Dirk did a little research project in the Big Ten. This is when Nebraska first got in the Big Ten, and he looked at the road to home comparisons in the Big Ten, and it was so much more than what it was in the Big 12. It's just better stadiums. It's more dedicated to football. It means more. Plus, they pay their coaches and their assistant coaches more.
Very well.
They prep very well. So going on the road in this conference is not easy. I don't care if it's to College Park or if it's to Minneapolis. It could be a loss.
Now, all of these 4 opponents you might classify as being in Nebraska's neighborhood. They're all kind of programs that are in that mid-pack of the Big Ten Conference. Since 2019, when favored by 8 or more in conference games, they're 15-5. The losses, though, 4 of the 5 losses are to Illinois twice, Minnesota, and Northwestern.
Yeah.
You also consider just straight up against the Big Ten in their last 30 games. Nebraska's just 9-21 in the Big Ten Conference.
Wow.
And the wins are against Indiana before Cignetti, Rutgers twice, Iowa, Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue twice, and Wisconsin. But of those 9 wins, only 3 of those teams Nebraska beat ended up in bowl games. Last year's Rutgers team, 2 years ago Northwestern, and 2022 Iowa. Those were the only bowl teams that Nebraska has beaten in conference. Now, I haven't really projected ahead what Michigan State and Maryland, Minnesota, and Northwestern, but
Maryland's 2 games away.
At most,
One game away.
I think at most you got 2 bowl teams in the next.
Oh,
4.
yeah, for sure.
Michigan State's got a tough schedule. I don't know if they're going to get there. Maryland, like you said, they're only 2 games away. Minnesota probably will get there. Northwestern ain't going anywhere.
No, they're not making it anywhere. So it's funny because I think back at some of those games. That Indiana game, that came down to, remember, I believe Tommy Armstrong, across his body throw to Stanley Morgan.
Right.
To hit him, he broke 2 tackles to score
in Bloomington
to be able to win that game. So it wasn't like it was an easy win.
No.
If you're favored by 8 in a conference game, especially if you're on the road, I think that's more like 5. I'm taking points off because you're going on the road in the Big Ten. I know it says 8, but when I'm doing betting stuff, I don't think of it that way. And if it's a rivalry game, there's a trophy involved, I may take more off. It's hard to win this conference, man.
Well, there you go. Conversation. Could they go 4-0? Well, they got to start today by beating Michigan State. How do they beat Michigan State? How do they beat Michigan State on offense?
Did you pick them, by the way, to go 4-0 over this month, or did you not? I think you did, right?
Preseason?
Yeah, I picked them to lose to Minnesota in preseason. Did you pick them to lose?
I've got 8-4.
So you had to have picked one of these to be lost, right?
I don't recall picking games. I'll have to look.
So
I'm
you
trying to
picked
remember.
Penn State,
I probably picked Minnesota to win.
USC?
I picked Michigan to win, Penn State to win,
Iowa.
I might have picked USC.
That might have been your 4?
I might have been my 4.
Okay.
I'll double check during the break. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, it is tough to win in this conference, which is why I believe if you do go 4-0,
it's huge.
It is a step forward, not exactly the same as beating a Michigan, but it's similar in terms of what it means symbolically for the program,
standard.
And it means you're starting to win games more often than not in your neighborhood, where Nebraska has not been as successful in recent years.
You got to set the standard of what you want to be.
Correct.
And the standard would be to beat all 4 of these teams.
Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sidoro Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next, and by Blur Parties. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. How does Nebraska move the ball today against Michigan State? Maybe the bigger question is, how does Michigan State slow down
exactly
Nebraska? We'll look at some of the numbers. We'll talk about some of their personnel when we come back here at the Blur Events tailgate. Michigan has just started the second half, up 10-7 on Wisconsin. Georgia's up 21-7 early third quarter against Kentucky. And they did count that touchdown, by the way. Did they make the 2-point conversion?
They did, with one-handed catch.
So it's 31-15 at halftime. Cincinnati leading number 14, Iowa State. We'll be back with more of 1620 The Pregame. John Bishop, Michael Severe, Nick Grimm, Jake Janicek, right after this on 1620 The Zone and 101.9 The Keg.
1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to 1620 The Pregame.
Welcome back to the Blur Events tailgate. There are still openings for future Blur Events tailgates, though the time is starting to run out.
Yep.
Hard to believe.
We're flying through it with 5 home games.
You got Northwestern left, USC left, and Iowa left as home games after today.
Yeah.
So if you've got a small group or maybe your business wants to do something tailgate-wise and you don't want to worry about setting up or finding a spot, contact Stacy over at blurevents.com. And maybe they can set you up. They've got great tailgate here, lots of food, lots of drink, lots of games. You can watch a game. Heck, there are people that stay over here and watch the football instead of going into the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
So even if your group doesn't have tickets to the game, come down here and you can be right outside the stadium and enjoy everything that Blur Events has to offer, blurevents.com. So now, as we look at this matchup today, and let's start first with when Nebraska has the football.
Yeah.
When you take a look, and for those of you watching in on our YouTube channel, everything in green is good. Everything in purple is bad. And there's a lot of bad for Michigan State and a lot of good for Nebraska. And I specifically look at two categories: EPA, expected points allowed, or expected points added. I keep saying allowed. Expected points added per pass. Nebraska's 13th in the country, while Michigan State on defense is 128th.
Yeah.
And then you look at third down success. Nebraska on third downs this year, 52%. That's almost top 25 in the country. Michigan State has allowed third down conversions on half of the opponent's attempts. That's down in the 120s in the country. And Michael, despite the fact,
all the sacks they've given up,
despite the fact that Nebraska had all those sacks against Michigan State, the havoc allowed numbers for Dana Holgorsen when he took over last year into this year, they've done a good job of limiting havoc. Now, havoc also includes turnovers, of which
fumbles.
Nebraska has not had, and deflected passes. Not a lot of deflected passes. Yeah. Nebraska is still only 11th in the country in havoc allowed, while Michigan State, they don't rush the passer very well. They're only 69th. Yeah. So preventing havoc today, and I think that's a key for Michigan State today, is trying to find a way to rush the passer, but they don't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
No, they don't. What they did do well before they played USC was they limited long runs. They only had given up 3 long runs, really, in all the other games, and they gave up 10 to USC. So that's why I believe Nebraska needs to come out running the ball. I know what the passing numbers are. But again, they had a whole week to work on Nebraska. And Michigan State is going to set up defensively to say, we're not going to have Dylan beat us. If you want to run and work your way down the field, run the ball, do that. And so I think they're going to set up that way. Nebraska needs to come out running the ball. One of the things that I thought about Michigan State in the games that I've watched with them is they break a ton of tackles, right? They also allow a bunch of – they miss a lot of tackles. And so Nebraska in the open field, something they couldn't do against Michigan, which I believe they only forced like 4 total missed tackles all game.
Right.
They've got to at least double that against a team that doesn't do well tackling the ball.
We'll get to some of the Michigan State personnel in a second, but here was Dana Holgorsen earlier this week. Now, keep in mind that the question was essentially about, well, have you decided what you're going to do with the number 2 running back? Here was Dana earlier this week.
They're all getting better. I mean, every time we get out there, I think those guys get better. It's all of them, So, I think you'll see something that you haven't seen on Saturday.
Something you haven't seen on Saturday. I still wonder, Michael, if that's not necessarily addressing the number 2 running back as much as it's just addressing the running game in totality. I know the question was about number 2 running back, but I wonder if there's going to be new wrinkles this week with the running game as a whole that Dana's referring to as something we've not seen yet.
What I want to see, and we talked about this before the season, I think if Nebraska's going to run the ball successfully, I think they need to come out in 2 tight ends. Now, whether that's 2 real tight ends or Corcoran as a tight end, I believe they need to get physical and run against them with size, right? And they can do that against Michigan State. I know they can do that. So I want to see him come out with 2 tight ends, motion one of the tight ends over, go strong, and if he wants to come back to the weak side, that's fine with me, and run the ball right down their throat, because I'm telling you, they're going to be playing back to prevent the pass, not to stop the run. So come out and do that right away against Michigan State. I think they can be successful. 2 tights.
2 tights.
2 tights.
Well, there may be new tackles starting this week.
Yeah.
Here was Matt Rule earlier this week.
Yes, you'll see it on Saturday. And I mean that respectfully. I don't want to start saying a lot of things about what's going to happen. But I thought last week, guys, we kind of clarified a little bit what we were going to do. And, I think after a game like that, you know exactly what you need to work on. And so I think each guy improved last week. But I think we feel good about, hey, here's what we're going to go with.
Sean Callahan reported on 3 that Pritchett will be starting at left tackle this week.
Pritchett will be starting at left tackle. I thought he might. Now, my question is, do they move Gatula to right tackle? Or are they going to stay with Prohaska over there on the right side?
Up until, you go to a show and the president gets shot, everything was fine before that.
Yeah.
Up until the Michigan game, Prohaska was playing well. He hadn't been giving up a lot. Scores were pretty good on Pro Football Focus. Hadn't given up a lot of sacks. Yes, he got exposed. But was that just because he was going against much better ends? Maybe. So I don't know if you bring – Prohaska's playing well enough, I think, to where you leave him at right tackle. I would personally.
Right.
That's what I would do. I'm not sure if people have seen it yet. By this point, as Nebraska's coming out and they're getting stuff setting up, I'm sure people are starting to see that and report it on social media.
I think what is key today they've brought us some more of their delicious buffet.
Got a little pulled pork, it looks like a baked potato.
And some chili.
Chili and cheese.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you very much. There's a little
for the baked potato.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Wow, loaded baked potatoes
Nice.
today.
I like
This
that. That's
is,
pretty cool.
Is that cornbread too?
That is cornbread.
Oh my goodness. Now you're talking.
Cedric Maxwell on my plate.
Now you're talking. But going back to the offensive line question, when it comes to Pritchard, one thing we've seen this year is when he's come in games, when he's made that critical mistake, usually it's the procedure penalty, he gets pulled right away. If you're going to go to him as your starter, that means you're going to stick with him even if he makes that critical mistake that everybody notices. You have said since the beginning of the season, the thing that concerns you about Pritchett is his pass protecting.
Yes.
Which, of course, with a team that throws it so well and wants to save its quarterback at all costs, to me, that will be worth watching here this afternoon.
Yeah.
If he's out there for starters-like minutes, which he should be, how is he going to hold up against this pass rush?
Well, you just said it earlier, right? Michigan State's not a good pass rushing team.
So maybe it's a good team to debut against.
If you're going to play him against somebody, you probably want to play him against a team that really doesn't have one of those speed rushers that's going to give him trouble. My concern about Pritchett has always been the same thing, and this was the case back at Alabama. He loses concentration, and he loses concentration. That's why he ends up having procedurals. He loses concentration. That's why he gets beat sometimes so easily, because he has a couple of reps that are good, and then all of a sudden he has a rep that's bad, and your quarterback's getting leveled. Looks like a Cubs. What do they call those? Touchdowns?
Michael Bush.
What do they call those? Touchdowns?
That's called a home run.
It's called a home run in baseball. I've heard about those before. So congratulations to John. Is he the leadoff hitter?
He's the leadoff hitter, baby.
Wow, look at that. Getting going early.
1-0 good guys. We got a fan here today. I ran into him early. He's wearing a Cubs jersey.
Yeah.
He said he's an Iowa fan, so he doesn't care if he's not wearing red in the stadium. But I saw another Sandberg jersey here today as well. So 1-0 Cubs. But anyway, back to the game at hand.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of Michigan State's defensive personnel. Yeah. Now, they lost one of their best players last week to a targeting penalty against USC, Jordan Hall, but he will be back today. He leads the team in tackles. He leads the team in tackles for loss. But, again, they allow 29 points a game. Their rush offense, just looking at the normal numbers, 83rd in terms of yards per carry allowed through the on the ground. Yeah. Almost 8 yards per pass attempt through the air. That's 93rd in the country, and they're 108th. They're giving up 6 yards per play. The Cubs took the lead. That's why I'm happy.
They're not bad, right? They're another team that 2 out of the 3 plays, they're going to play pretty well defensively against you. The problem is they have so many busts. I mean, whether it's Youngstown or any game I watch with them, they'll always have busts. Now, number 91 in the middle, their defensive tackle, that guy is a real plugger, and if you're trying to run the ball, you don't get him blocked, he's going to get a tackle for loss or a stop tackle. You mentioned Hall earlier, how good he is. They've got another linebacker in Matthews who runs all over the field. He's one of those guys where you'll see somebody have the angle, and all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and he makes a tackle. That's what kind of tackle he is, a run and hit guy. And my favorite guy they have in the secondary is Spencer, number 43. Another guy that gets all over the place and always seems to get his hand on the ball. You got to watch out for him. But they do have some talent. They just not for 3 straight plays. They can't do that.
And their leading sacker is Laafale, who has 2, but he's a backup. He's usually their third down edge rusher.
But you see when he had them, though, he had them against, I think it was against Youngstown. He didn't have them against good opponents.
Exactly.
Like Central Michigan and then like also against Youngstown.
One other thing to watch for, and of course we talk about this ad nauseum when it comes to Nebraska, is that red zone.
Yes.
Well, defensively, Michigan State is 94th in red zone scoring.
Yes.
And they're 100th in red zone touchdowns. So we talk about ways to get right.
Yeah.
This might be a day to get right with their red zone offense.
Yeah, they're the opposite, right? They're really good in red zone offense. They're not good in red zone defense. Nebraska's been pretty good in red zone defense, not very good in red zone offense.
Yeah.
So who can be worse at their strength? Who can be worse at their weakness? That's what they have.
Michigan State has produced just 49 pressures this year and 4 sacks. Compare that to Michigan going into that game last week. It was 86 pressures and 16 sacks. So, I mean, it is a night and day difference what you're going to face in terms of pressures today. Dylan should have time to throw the football, but as like Michael said, maybe today is a day where you establish that run early on.
I'd like to see it. Get Emmett some confidence. If you're going to do something with those backup backs, get them in early, give them a chance as well. Then maybe once they've said, okay, we're getting beaten by the run, we're going to bring more guys up, and then that's where you take advantage of their poor pass defense.
Take a look at some of the other scores around the country and maybe preview a couple of the later games this afternoon. There's a couple of good ones going on directly opposite today's matchup between Nebraska and Michigan State. Again, 3 o'clock kickoff this afternoon on FS1. Tim Brando and Devin Gardner, who we had on the show yesterday, will be on the call for Fox. 1620 the pregame, presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust, and by Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. We'll be back on this windy, warm day in Lincoln right after this. 1620 the pregame on 1620 the zone and 1019 the K.
1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to 1620 The Pregame.
Presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust. And Blur Parties, learn about all of their new events and future tailgates, including College World Series tailgates at blurevents.com. Scanning the wires here.
Yeah.
Purdue is hanging in there with Illinois. Illinois was up 3 scores in this one,
Yep.
but it's now 30-21.
Let's go
midway
Boilers.
through the third quarter.
Let's go Boilers.
Cincinnati, which got the early jump, 17-0 on Iowa State, leads the Cyclones 31-15. That game has got 9 minutes left.
And they're in the red zone.
In the
Iowa
third
State
quarter.
is. And how ballsy was it to run that ball when they did at the end of the first half to get a touchdown and 2-point conversion?
And Michigan missing a chip shot field goal. Still 10-7, I believe.
Yep, still 10-7.
Against
Yep.
the Wisconsin Badgers. It was a 17-point spread.
Yeah.
In favor of Michigan. Well, later today, same time almost as Nebraska and Michigan State, you got the big SEC battle. Diego Pavia,
Yeah.
Mr. Underdog. What is he? Something like 14-4 or something as an underdog.
He is
outright.
I believe he's 14. He's 12-4.
12-4.
He's 16-4 overall. So that's located back. That's Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And that's also at New Mexico State. He's out of those 16-4. He's got 12 straight up wins. So forget ATS.
Incredible.
And then at Vandy on the road, he's won 4 out of 6. And remember, this is Keelan DeBoer, who's already lost 4 games where Alabama was a double-digit favorite. And then he also lost one back at Washington. So he's got 5 of those total where he's been a double-digit favorite and lost the game straight up.
And the spread in that game has gone up to 12.5, 13, I think.
Remember, last year it was 27.
Right.
And that was at Vandy.
Right.
And now,
But now you don't have the surprise of Pavia
I know,
anymore.
I'm giving you all these numbers, but Alabama legitimately should win this game and should win this game big. They should. But Pavia Magic, this kid, so he was back there at Volcano Valley High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 11-0 state champion. Left there, didn't get offered a scholarship, even by the Lobos. Went to New Mexico Military Institute in Roswell, New Mexico. What did he do? He beat Iowa Western for the Junior College National Championship. Then he went to New Mexico State, where they hadn't won 2 games in like 4 years, and he took them to a bowl game. Then he goes to Vandy, and they beat Alabama for the first time in 40 years and beat a number 1 team for the first time ever. This kid is real. Whatever you say about him, he's real.
He's real, and he's improved from
better.
last year.
Throws the ball better.
So last year, the big thing with him was play-action passing.
Yep.
He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he beat Alabama with play-action passing. But this year, according to PFF, he's got a career high in his non-play-action throws.
Yeah.
So he's able to beat you without the threat, or at least trying to bring the linebackers and safeties in with the threat of play-action pass. But he's going up against a quarterback that is really on a hot streak right now. Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
When the pocket's kept clean, he's got a 92 grade on PFF. He's got 11 touchdowns when the pocket's clean, no interceptions. So if Vandy can't improve its pass rush, and they're pretty good rushing the pass, so they're 12th in pass rushing grade this year.
Yeah.
So they can put pressure on you.
But not against the same kind of quality competition.
But against the same quality competition, probably not.
Yeah.
So
my favorite sign this morning was Theismann. Ty Simpson for Heisman.
I'm seeing some Florida love today. I think a couple of the guys on the ESPN panel picked the Gators to win today. Texas is a skinny home or road dog at Florida. Texas, they've quote unquote gotten right.
Yeah.
Since
they're
the Ohio
favored by
State
5.5, right? Texas is?
I saw 4.5 last time I saw it. But Texas has gotten right, but I use air quotes because they've only gotten right against way overmatched opponents.
Yeah.
So now they get back into the thick of things. Some people think this might be the last stand for your favorite guy, Billy Napier, that maybe this could be his last game, especially if Texas puts one on Florida today. I wonder if Texas might be on a little bit of an upset alert today.
I like him. I mean, I don't like Billy Napier, but I like him in games where they're an underdog, especially if it's more than 4. He's been very good there. Plus, that's a great defense. You can say whatever you want about DJ Lagway or any of those guys. That is a great defense. And they're going to make it really hard on Arch Manning. And it's going to be really hard for Texas to run the ball. And so as long as DJ doesn't throw them out of the game like he did against Florida, Against LSU, they'll be there.
Problem is, though, that DJ Lagway, who was one of the best deep passers in the country last year, this year, he does not have a completed pass of 20 or more air yards in the last 3 games, and his only deep completion came against FCS Long Island all the way back in week 1, and Texas has one of the best secondaries in the country. Yeah. So if Florida's going to win this game today, I don't think it's going to come on the strength of Lagway's arm. It's going to be on his decision.
I think it's like 17-10, 14-10, just 2 defenses that are really good with 2 quarterbacks that have really struggled.
Texas Tech and Houston, battle of the unbeatens down at Houston.
Texas Tech defense, completely underrated. You look at some of their numbers, because their offense is so good, nobody talks about their defense. Those guys get after you.
Well,
they get after you.
Their front 4, Height, Bailey, Gil Howard, and Hunter, all have PFF rush grades of more than 75 this season. These guys will get after you. And they're going to have their starting quarterback back, which you might say might not be a great thing, because Will Hammond came in against Utah 2 weeks ago and engineered that win on the road. But Baron Morton this year, he's been really good. One of the best passing grades in the country when the pocket is kept clean. And Houston doesn't do a great job of rushing the passer. So, I know it's at Houston, but Texas Tech looks
What's
like
the number?
The number, I believe, was 11.5. I don't have it on this sheet.
I could see Houston late because they keep playing. I love their head coach. So he was the head coach of Sam Houston State back in the day before he did all the stuff and moved all the places. I think that he's going to keep them in the game, and I wouldn't be surprised if late, touchdown Michigan, I wouldn't be surprised late if Houston gets a touchdown to get that under the number.
Mississippi State was that close to pulling the upset at home against Tennessee, but they lost in overtime. Now they go on the road to Texas A&M. They're more than a 2-touchdown underdog here. Aggies didn't impress much on offense, and thus Coach Elko was really defensive in his press conference post-game.
This is a Damon Benning game.
And what does
they're
that
going to
mean?
get killed.
You think Mississippi State's going to
kill them?
Because you think Elko's that mad?
I also think that you look at Mississippi State, and when you're in a game like that where everything is on the line and you're playing real well and you don't win it, I think there's a letdown part of it. And if you look at Mississippi State, who they played so far this year, this is an offense they're not going to see an offense like this that's playing as well. So I think A&M beats them by more than 3 touchdowns. 17-7 now Michigan after that touchdown. 10 points up on Wisconsin. Oh, my goodness. And Illinois just fumbled the ball. Oh, damn it. Iowa State recovered.
Iowa State now down 9. 31 to 22. By the way, if you had the over, I think it's about ready to hit. And, of course, the big game tonight is Miami and Florida State.
Yes.
What have you thought of this line? It's 4.5 for Miami. There's a lot of people that think Miami could run away with this one, but Florida State's at home, and if they can engineer the same kind of running game that they had against Alabama. Now, I know Miami's front is really, really good, but there's something about that line that feels a little weird to me.
Yeah, and what's funny about that line is that's what it was before the season.
So that's
what it was last week. So even though Florida State loses to Virginia, it's still the same. So that tells you a lot. I think Miami is a favorite with fleas. I think they are. A lot of people are saying, well, they should blow this. They should easily win this. I think there's a lot of money on them. I kind of like Florida State with the upset.
Wow, Florida State with the upset.
I took them money line.
A lot of people think Miami could run the table, and if they get past this game, they're really their only other, what you would say, tough opponent left is Louisville, and that'll be coming off an idle week. So Miami, if they can pull this one off tonight, could be on path for 12-0. Could be.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they win it. I just think everything is set up for Florida State. Remember I mentioned it's a lot easier to coach after a loss than it is after a win sometimes. I think they're going to have them ready.
Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sidoro Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next, and by Blur Parties. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. We talked about it early at the top of the show, talking about playing with the wind howling as it will be tonight here at Memorial Stadium. Well, here was what Matt Rule had to say about that on Thursday.
It's part of being here. It's part of being in the region of the country that we're in. And we practice outside in the spring. It's 32 degrees. It's 24 degrees, and we're outside, throwing in the ice and snow, and that's just why quarterbacks with big hands, that can control the ball and spin the ball through the wind. matter, but I'm not concerned. It's just something to take into account. You take into account kicking game. The wind comes out of the south end zone. I believe it's coming southwest this game, so it'll be a factor. And everything that you do, it might mean you make some different decisions than normally you would. But the good news is both teams have to play with it at their back and in front. And we had the Maryland game 2 years ago, and then we had the Rutgers game last year. Both really, really windy games that affected the passing game. So it was windy at times versus Akron too. So
today it'll be interesting to see if Jonathan Smith gets pinched in that same trap that Greg Schiano did last year. Remember, Matt Rule won the toss, and they took the ball, forcing Rutgers to decide, do we want the wind in the fourth quarter or do we want the ball? Nebraska could have gotten the ball to start both halves. They decided to take the ball, but Nebraska had to win in the fourth quarter. Got to imagine today, Michael, the team that wins the toss will probably take the ball first and thus put that force on the other coach to make a decision, ball or wind in the fourth quarter.
Hopefully it doesn't matter.
Hopefully by then it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But, so, I can't remember. There's a word I always forget. Nick told me what it was before, but there's not a time where Matt Rule does not turn over every single stone for every single thing. He knows everything.
He's got a contingency.
Yeah, he always is prepared. He's like a Boy Scout. He's been talking about the wind. He's been talking with his teams about how we're going to handle this. Remember, he was the first guy I truly remember that brings those guys together, his captains. And he goes, here's every situation, and this is how you handle it. Because every single stone never goes unturned for him. He just is good at that. He prepares for everything.
You are listening to 1620 The Pregame, presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust, and Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. My team's lead was short-lived.
I see that.
The Brewers had 3 straight extra base hits and then an error after the Cubs played so well on defense last week.
Who's your they're taking out your starting pitcher now? Is that a new pitcher?
No.
They keep showing him warming up. I thought he was the new pitcher.
No, there's a new pitcher warming up. He's still on the mound, but it's 3-1 bad guys in the first, trying to get out of this first inning with no further damage done. Second hour of 1620 The Pregame is coming up next, and when we come back, we're going to go back 30 years in our Husker history mystery, and we'll look at the other side of the matchup when Michigan State has the ball. That and more as we continue live from the Blur Events tailgate here on 1620 The Zone and 101.9 The Keg.
This is 1620 the pregame.
All the way in, touchdown!
1620 the pregame is presented by Chandler Conway, personal injury attorneys you can trust. Now from the Blur Parties tailgate at Memorial Stadium, here's John Bishop and Michael Severe.
Welcome back to the Blur Events tailgate here in Lincoln. John Bishop, Michael Severe. Hour number 2 of 1620, the pregame, as the Nebraska Cornhuskers try to get back on the winning track today against the Michigan State Spartans. Always a lot of good friends that come over and say hi to us here at the Blur Events tailgate. Yeah. They always have a great crowd here. Nice, friendly folks.
Yeah.
Stacy's parents.
Stacy's mom and her dad. Stacy's mom.
Stacy's miserable right now.
Got it going on
because our starting pitcher's gotten pulled and now 4-1.
So he did get pulled. Okay.
Yeah, he just got pulled because he just gave up another run. So looks like game 1 is post toasty. So
I would never
answer your question.
I would never say that the Brewers are the bad guys. I've always thought.
Oh, stop!
No, listen. I've nothing to do with baseball, or whatever. I've always thought that you know how much Nebraska and Omaha gets the moniker of being nice. Milwaukee, one of the nicest places I've ever visited. Every time I've been to Milwaukee, people have been incredibly nice. It's like the direct opposite of Baltimore. Baltimore, most evil city in America, next to Boston, and then there's Milwaukee. So I would never call Milwaukee the bad guys because they're really nice people, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, as we get ready for hour number 2, we're going to take a look both at when Michigan State has the ball, and we're going to look at the special teams matchup, which has been the deciding factor in all 3 of the final 3 matchups between these two teams. But it is our second hour, and we always start with our Husker history mystery. There is a commonality between this year's season and the season played 30 years ago, and that opponent is Michigan State.
Yes,
it was
it
game
is.
number 2. Nebraska went down to Oklahoma State. They clobbered the Cowboys and then opened their non-conference slate in East Lansing against a fresh face, first-year coach in one Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And the first half was a little sloppy. Tommy got hurt. There were a couple of turnovers. Nebraska was only up like 20-6 at halftime.
Yeah.
But then the second half happened, and Nebraska's running game got going.
LP happened.
50-yard line, and Billinger in the gun. The snap goes up back. 45, it's 4, it's 40. 35, great move, Cooley. The 25, left sideline. He's going to go. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. They're down in 1, feed him in motion, left to right before the snap, and you are the eye toss sweep right. It's Amon with the ball, got a block. He's across the 50, 45, right sideline, slipped the tackle, 25, the 20. He's going to score. Amon Green, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Huskers with the ball, and James Sims broke one inside the 40, the 35, the 30, 25, 20. Another long touchdown by Nebraska. No flags on the play. An 80-yard touchdown run by James Sims.
And Nebraska would go on to win 50-10 that day. That is the game that prompted the story that Nick Saban has told many times, and that is in the post-game handshake, Tom Osborne put his arm around the young coach and said, "You're not as bad as you think." And it turned out that Michigan State team, they won 6 games that year, and they upset Michigan in his first year in East Lansing.
The second line, which he never says, but Coach Tom Osborne says it when he tells the story, he goes, "You're not as bad as you think. We're pretty good."
Yes.
That was the line he said. We're pretty good, and they were. So I have that game on DVD. That's one of those ones that
you watched
Jake
when you
gave
got
me.
here.
Yeah, that Jake gave me. And I remember then thinking, because all I really knew of LP was with seeing him in the World Football League.
Yep.
Right? Seeing him a little bit with the Niners, watching him running that game, I was like, oh, my God, he was really good.
And
he was really good.
Unfortunately, that was his last game he played before the incident happened, and he was suspended for half the season. But the interesting thing is you heard those calls by Kent.
It's his birthday.
Oh, it is?
Birthday, yeah.
Okay. 3 different running backs with 50 or more yard touchdown runs. Lawrence Phillips, Amon Green, and Jay Sims.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that backfield also had Damon Benning
in it,
and Clinton Childs, who the next week ran it 70 yards for a touchdown on the first play from scrimmage. Needless to say, Nebraska was – I can't think of a team, Michael, that was deeper at running back. You legitimately had –
there's only
5 guys that could have started at most other power conference school in the country.
There's really only one that I can always remember, and that is Miami. When they had Frank Gore, They had Willis McGahee. They had Najee Davenport. So all guys, there's a fourth one leaving my mind, but all guys who went on to go to Edgerrin James. There's another guy in that list that went on to lead his team in rushing in the NFL. So, I mean, that's about the only one I can think of that's that good.
You are listening to 1620 The Tailgate, presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust. And Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. As far as injuries go for today, Michigan State's going to get a couple of guys back. They've had a couple of guys in their defensive lineup that have been out. Also, their top wide receiver, who we're going to talk about a little bit later on, has been banged up a little bit, and he's going to be a key today for Michigan State. Talking about Nick Marsh.
Nick Marsh is the man, dude.
Nick Marsh is their second leading receiver, but he leads them in touchdowns, and he's averaging about 15 yards a catch.
And that's after missing almost 3/4 of one game and at least a half of another one.
So we'll talk more about them coming up. And, of course, Malcolm Hartzog for Nebraska, probably not going to see him again today. You just get the feeling, Michael, the more he's talked about that he's probably out for the season, or even if he's not, they might hold him back because he hasn't played 4 games yet.
And I'll tell you why that's a big thing, especially against this Michigan State team later.
We will do all of that and more. Of course, it is a very, very breezy day today. We're looking out. We can see the flags at the north end of Memorial Stadium, and it's straight out of the south. Expected to be 20 to 30-mile-an-hour winds sustained throughout the game, with gusts up to 35, maybe even 40 miles an hour today.
It's Clinton Portis, Najee Davenport, Willis McGahee, and Frank Gore.
Goodness. They all played the league.
All guys who are all pro, or at least Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
All of those guys.
So that, again,
pretty good team.
Really, really, really good team. Unfortunately, Nebraska found out firsthand.
Yes, they did.
Just how tough they are. Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sedora Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Parties. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. When we come back here on 1620 The Pregame, we're going to take a look at the matchup when Michigan State has the ball. And will Nebraska's defense have a better day today against the run and against more balanced offense?
Oh, definitely.
Obviously, probably the best balanced offense that they've seen since Cincinnati, and we all saw what they did against the Bearcats. By the way, Cincinnati up by 9 late in the third quarter, but Iowa State trying to mount a comeback here late in the third quarter, 31-22. Bearcats trying to beat number 14 Iowa State on home field. We'll be back with more of 1620 The Pregame with John Bishop, Michael Severe right after this on 1620 The Zone and 101.9 The Keg.
Stop into your nearest Cubbies in Nebraska, Western Iowa, and South Dakota for top quality fuel, hot and fresh food, plus that local spirit that you'll always find at Cubbies. Whether it's a dash in for a drink and a snack, or you're swinging by one of our select locations to grab dinner from Chester's Chicken or Godfather's Pizza Express, Cubbies has you covered. And don't forget your Bear Bucks rewards card for rewards and extra savings. Cubbies, the very best in convenience.
Here's another Energy Media radio station you may want to put in your presets. Check out Sweet 98.5, Omaha's workday favorites for hits from the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and today. An Omaha legend, Sweet 98.5.
Betting sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sidoro Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next, and by Blur Parties. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. Matt Rule this week talking about Michigan State quarterback Aiden Childs.
15-man quarterback, which I respect. He's completely 70% dynamic. He can run. We'll obviously see the quarterback draw and all the things that we've seen, so we'll have to be prepared to stop that. But it's also his ability to run behind the line of scrimmage when needed to and create plays. But an explosive player, one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten.
Similar but not as heralded as Dylan Raiola, Aiden Childs' numbers have improved from year to year. When you take a look at all the basic stats for Childs this year, 69% completion percentage, 8.5 yards attempt, only one interception this year versus 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's had a bunch of, just based on watching them play, a bunch of almost interceptions. So I'd assume if I had that number for turnover-worthy plays, I'm sure it's up there. But so he's running the ball more this year. So this time, 39 rushes through 4 games. Last year total, he had 97 total rushes. This year he's averaging enough to get to 120, 125. And when they get in the red zone, he's using his legs in there a lot better. Now, he's not an explosive guy. He's very long-legged, long stride. I mentioned earlier in the week a little bit of runner like he's a young giraffe.
Yeah.
But now once he gets into the open field in a couple of steps, he will pull away from you. So he is more like Underwood than he is Sorsby in terms of where they run the ball.
His sack-adjusted run yards this season, he's averaging almost 8 yards a carry. And so it's not bad. It's 225 yards, 7.8 yards a carry this season. You add the sacks in, obviously it's a little bit worse than that. But I think, Michael, his legs hold the key to Michigan State's going to keep this a fight. Yeah. It's not going to be – they're not going to ask him to run it 10 times. Right. But maybe. But if he can extend drives, if he can move the chains and keep Nebraska's offense off the field, then that helps open things up elsewhere as well. This is a Michigan State running attack overall that's not great. They're averaging 4.3 yards a carry. Mekhi Frazier's their leading runner.
The running backs are averaging 4.7.
Yeah.
And about 150 a game. Nebraska is 16th in the Big Ten, 12th in yards per run. I know they're not running great, but they are going against a porous run defense so far this season. I wouldn't be surprised if both of the guys have good games against Nebraska today, based off what we've seen from Nebraska so far in run defense.
I think that Jonathan Smith today is going to want to shorten this game. He's going to take his time. He doesn't want to get into a track meet necessarily with Nebraska. And obviously the best way you can do that is if you can average that 4.5 yards a carry, and just stay ahead of the chains enough to where you can get first downs, move the ball, run the clock. Because if this gets up and down, it favors Nebraska in a huge way.
And that's what they're doing. Like I said, you got to take Childs' runability out of it and just go with those two starting running backs. And you're looking at 4.7 yards. Nebraska's given up 5.18. Nebraska's given over 5 yards a rush. That is shocking to me based off what I know about the history of Matt Rule. No matter where he's been, even when Carolina was struggling and really struggling, where people were hating on him on social media, they were still stopping the run. To have that, to give up over 5 yards a carry, that's shocking.
It is shocking. You take a look at the receivers. We already mentioned Nick Marsh a moment ago. 18 catches, 222 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This is a big target for him. And as you mentioned earlier, he's got the ability to break tackles and get yards after the catch.
Yeah, you know how well they played? They played well against USC. They didn't get dominated. They would have been much better. Marsh really only played about a quarter. He had the first 2 catches, gained about 30 yards, and you didn't see him again because he had that lower leg injury. Now, a week later, he's probably healthy. Watching him play before that injury, every time he caught the ball, he broke a tackle. He was, through 3 or 4 weeks, he was leading the Big Ten in wide receivers in forcing missed tackles. So he's a guy that's going to be tough. You got to get him. And that's why I worry about not having, your starting safety out there.
Right.
Because there's 2 things that Michigan State does better than anybody in Nebraska's played so far. And that includes Michigan. If you watch Childs, when he runs that stretch play, he runs that stretch play as well as Peyton Manning did.
Yeah.
You could tell the kid has worked on it. He's got his steps right. He gets the ball all the way out there. You're working on your eyes. And if you lose containment, if you lose your eyes, you're in trouble against him. Guthrie doesn't have the experience of Hartzog. He's probably going to get beat. The other thing they really do well is their wide receivers break tackles. Michigan, again, didn't have the best wide receivers, although I think they'll be better as the season goes along. I think Michigan State's wide receivers are better and are going to force more broken tackles. So you got to tackle well. With Guthrie back there and not Hartzog, I do worry about that.
Omari Kelly is their leading receiver with 21 catches, 317 yards, and a touchdown
and
this year.
Best returner.
And their best returner. We're going to talk about that in a separate segment, special teams coming up, but he's averaging almost 80 yards receiving a game. So I think, I know they played Cincinnati. I know what Cincinnati has become since then.
Yeah.
But I would argue that Michigan State provides the best challenge, balanced challenge to date because of the running quarterback, their ability to just extend drives with their running backs, and these receivers. Because I think these receivers are better than Cincinnati's receivers. I think overall it's the best challenge for that Nebraska secondary that we've seen this year, which is why you want to hope, as we bring up some of the analytics numbers, you look at the havoc allowed. Michigan State is 108th in the country in havoc allowed. Nebraska's only 82nd in havoc created, but there's an opportunity here, just like there's an opportunity with red zone scoring. There's an opportunity here, perhaps with some havoc, and they have had some injuries on the offensive line.
Yeah, sometimes the havoc number doesn't match what you've watched. Again, I've watched Michigan State play every game, almost every minute of every game, and I don't think of them that way. Obviously, Childs didn't throw a lot of interceptions. The fumbles, that's it. That's why. I believe they have 4 fumbles. I think they've had 5 fumbles and lost 4. I think that's right. So that's a big number in there. I think that's an issue. But yelling, I think, is the key to this thing. He is their giant tight end who, when he gets around the red zone, they look for him. He's going to be bigger than anybody guarding him for Nebraska. And when he catches the ball, again, he will drag you for a while. I think he's huge. I'm just kind of surprised about. I know what Nebraska is in terms of havoc because I've watched them play too.
Sure.
I'm surprised Michigan State's numbers are that bad in terms of havoc allowed, based on what I've seen.
When you compare the side-by-side, and for those of you watching in on the stream, we've got the analytic graphic up. Again, purple is bad, green is good. And that EPA per rush, we talk about opportunities for Nebraska, opportunity for Michigan State, who's middle of the pack in terms of EPA per rush, but Nebraska 121st. It's the only really dark mark against their name, which is why you're concerned that Michigan State can stretch the game out, not stretch the game out,
literally
stretch out drives, but shorten the game with their running attack.
So literally with that stretch play, that outside zone play, that really concerns me. And when Childs comes off of that play, obviously he can throw it or he can run it. Watch him with his legs when he comes off that stretch play. I referenced Peyton Manning, who did not run off that stretch play. You will see Childs run off of it, And if the flow is good enough, he won't get it. He's going to come backside campaign. And what were we seeing? We saw 3 different guys lose contain against Cincinnati.
Yep.
All those guys should know better now. Stay backside because Child's going to be coming back to you.
One of the things you watch for in this game is third downs. Early downs, Michigan State is a little bit better than Nebraska defensively on early down plays.
Yeah.
But the average third down distance, Michigan facing a lot of third and longs this season. And that's going to obviously help if Nebraska can force some of those third and longs because they've been really good on getting off the field. They're 33rd in the country in third and fourth down success. Nebraska outside of the last drive by Michigan.
Exactly, yeah.
But before that, they've been pretty good at getting off the field when you get to third down.
Yeah, that last drive is so frustrating when you go back and watch. It's 3 plays where Nebraska had a chance on all 3 plays. And part of it, I've argued that they just out-schemed Nebraska. They out-audibled Nebraska, whether it was the throw outside where they outnumbered Nebraska in a missed tackle, or it was the screen on Nebraska's blitz, or when Nebraska backed off and they ran the draw on third down when Nebraska should have known they were not going to throw it because they didn't want to kill the clock. All 3 of them, I thought that was a coaching mismatch. They out-schemed Nebraska on those. They were incredibly frustrating, but it's a learning for Butler. He learns a little bit by seeing that happen.
Here was Matt Rule earlier this week when he was asked about the things that Nebraska could correct on defense.
Way back when at Penn State, we were always told, the right defense with the wrong player is never as good as the wrong defense with the right player. And so defense to me is about like warriors getting off blocks, making tackles, knocking balls out, hitting quarterbacks, picking balls off. That's, our guys on defense, they know they played a lot of really good plays against Michigan, and they let a couple plays get away from them. And that's, again, there's 2 different feelings, right? Like none of them are acceptable. But if you're sitting there and there's just like 6 yards, 7 yards, 6 yards, it's like, gosh, we can't stop them. This was stop, then boom, So we're literally on defense. We're pretty much in the top 25 in every category that we pay attention to until you get to that run area. Then all of a sudden it's like, ugh. And it's big. It's explosive runs, but it's also 6+ runs, and it's all correctable. So I think we've been just looking at like, hey, are we doing the right things? Are we doing the right things with the right people?
The right things with the right people. Now, I don't expect to see any real changes, but, to do the right things with the right people, it's about not making those critical mistakes like we saw against Michigan.
Here's what he's talking about. So Vincent Shavers, who can be a running hit guy, can occasionally do some things, but at the same time gets caught up in the wash sometime. Then you take away Vincent Shavers, and you take a guy like Wright, who, as good as he is, isn't naturally as shifty left to right as you want him to be. And then you got a small middle linebacker in Watson Trent, who can get overwhelmed at times, and if he plays too close to the line of scrimmage, he can't get away. Maybe this is a game. Look on the field and watch for Dawson Merritt. I know he's a true freshman. I know he's not as big, but instinctually, I think he's better than all those guys. I think he's going to be better than all those guys. Watch for him to make sure that when somebody comes to the line of scrimmage, instead of getting picked up by a guard or getting caught by a tight end or whatever else, you make that guy miss and you make the tackle. I would not be shocked if we see that true freshman out there making plays in the middle of the field today.
You said something about Matt Rule. It's hard to believe that a Matt Rule defense is allowing 5.1 yards per carry. Last week, all the talk around the program was, man, they practiced hard. Dana Holgerson said, I've never seen anything like this during an idle week before to see how hard this team practiced.
Yeah.
I have to imagine a lot of that practice was focused on 2 areas. Better offensive line play, particularly at the tackle, and better run defense. I think there's going to be a concerted effort here today to fix those things on the run side of the ball. Not that Michigan State threatens you in the same way that Michigan did, but those physical practices kind of tell me that they really wanted to work those lines of scrimmages last week.
You can't get better tackling unless you tackle.
Yeah.
Here's one of the biggest concerns, right? So you can be bad schematically, and because you're bad schematically, you're going to give up runs. You can be bad technique, which I think they are. I think it's the technique issue they've had. So you work on technique, you work on eye placement, you work on, okay, so he's running this way. I need to make sure that I got to be on this outside shoulder. I got to remember, I've got the out of bounds to my left.
Yep.
I need to make sure I'm playing him that way so I got help. Greatest defender on the planet is what? Out of bounds. Never been defeated. Nobody's ever defeated the out of bounds.
No, they haven't.
Instead of worrying so much,
Brandon Riley
Well-
defeated out of bounds once against Michigan State.
and also Penn State did it too. So
Oh,
against
yes,
Nebraska.
they did.
So
Thank you for remembering,
So
Michael.
anyway, in that situation, sometimes you got to think that way. Let me make sure I know where my help is, right? So that's about being in your head and being right schematically and being right technique. I think that's what Nebraska worked on.
We'll find out if that paid off today on a windy day, a very warm day here in Lincoln as fans are starting to make their way over towards Memorial Stadium. Remember, 3 o'clock kickoff today between the Huskers and the Spartans. The game is on FS1, and then right after the game, you can join Matt McMaster and Connor Happer for Big Red Overreaction right back here on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg. Our participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sidoro Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next, and by Blur Parties. See how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com.
Eye placement. You bite on all of that fake junk in the backfield, you're going to get beat. And I know Cincinnati's got a penalty call because of it, but you mess around and watch too much on the jet motion and you worry too much about what the quarterback's doing on his play action and don't play your keys, you get beat. Now, they got ineligible Mount Field because the lineman had made a mistake, but that's what happened right there in a game against Iowa State where they're playing the backfield and not playing their keys and got beat for a long one. Now, again, it's the guard's fault for drifting. But look, he fakes like he's coming
fakes
in.
a run
What's
and
the
he-
safety doing? He's like, oh, I'm watching the run.
Yep.
No, number 8 is there for a reason.
Yep,
He's
because
there
he's
for a
an
reason.
option.
Yes, and you have to play that.
31-22 Cincinnati with 12 minutes to go in that game in Cincinnati. Meanwhile, Michigan has pulled away from Wisconsin, who was keeping it very close
Yeah, they
through
were.
the first 2.5 quarters.
Just
but
can't
it's
make
now
third down. Can't convert third down.
24-7. Wisconsin's been just trying to do it mainly on the ground,
Yep.
but they are facing a 2nd and 4. They are in Michigan territory, but they trail by 3 scores, and there's less than 8 minutes to go in that game. And my poor Cubbies are just getting
Oh, my goodness.
routed right now. They can't get anybody out. It's
Has
8-1.
Has that always been the Brewers logo?
That's the
Didn't
one.
they used to be an M
That's the logo from the 70s and the 80s. They
Oh.
brought it back.
when they were in the AL?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I didn't know. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, that's the old logo from the 70s when they were in the
Congratulations.
World Series the last time.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully we don't see them in the World Series this time, but, man, they're taking a big step forward here today. Today's 1620 The Pregame presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust in Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. When we come back, we're going to talk about a subject that is very near and dear to Michael's heart. And it's very near and dear to the outcome of this series the last 3 times out, and that is special teams. We also have our keys to the game and our picks to click. And I think I'm going to make a new rule this year about picks to click. We'll talk about that.
Okay, all right.
We'll see if you agree. I mean,
Okay, all
it's
right.
got to be unanimous.
Okay, all right.
And we'll get you ready for kickoff at 3 o'clock. We'll be back right after this. It's 1620 The Pregame on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg. A similarly windy, but decidedly colder day.
Oh, yeah.
In 2018, when Nebraska faced Michigan State last here at Memorial Stadium. Oddly enough, the 21 and 23 games were both played in East Lansing, so the Spartans have not made the return trip since 2018. Thank you very much, Bigger Ten.
Yeah.
But it was that day that Barrett Pickering hit 3 critical field goals, including one from 47 yards out on a very tough day to kick. And that game actually foretold what was going to happen the next 2 years, not necessarily from a place kicking perspective, but from a special teams perspective, because each of the last 3 games in this series have been decided by 3 points.
Yeah.
But the last 2 games in this series, Michael, have been decided by something that does not get a lot of attention, and that is net punting.
Yes.
In 2021, we all remember how that defense absolutely ate up Michigan State in the second half. Did not allow a first down.
Not one first.
Nebraska was ready to win in, well, the score wouldn't have shown it, dominating fashion. Up by 7 late, and then miscommunication on the punt. The punt and the coverage team went one way. Well, the coverage team went one way. The punt went the other way. It was about the easiest punt return for a touchdown you will probably ever see.
Right.
It forced overtime where Michigan State won. So that year in net punting, Nebraska was minus 31.6 yards. But in 2023, 2 years ago, when Matt Rule coached in this series for the first time, the net punting difference was nearly 20 yards in the favor of Michigan State. Oh, and you want to guess who leads the country in net punting this year?
Michigan State.
With an average, this is their net average. So remember, the net, it's factoring in the length of the kick and the return.
Right.
It's the net yardage gained. Michigan State is averaging 49 yards. It's literally half a football field in net punting because they have one of the best kickers in the country in Eckley. And now Nebraska has improved the special teams since they last played 2 years ago. But this is an area where Michigan State should have the advantage. You hope it doesn't come down to it because Nebraska will just have too many points.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, when you think of it, you were thinking Nebraska probably a little bit better in terms of their efficiency ranking, but they're ranked currently 40th, where 28th for Michigan State. You mentioned how good their punter is, 53 yards per punt, but 6th in FBS in terms of punting efficiency. They do the job on both sides, coverage and punting as well. And their punt returner, Kelly, you mentioned earlier, is pretty good. Now he's only had a couple long ones and some that really didn't go anywhere. He's only had 6 returns total. But when you look at him, you can see the potential. He's a guy that'll make you miss and go a long way. Nebraska, though, give them props, 7th in punting efficiency so far this year. So they're right there, much better than they've been in the past.
And you factor in the wind today, and just depending on where it is, if you're kicking into it, it's going to make life very difficult for you. Now, what will be interesting is because Archie Wilson is such a non-traditional punter in the sense that he's, comes from the rugby side of things, and that ball kind of knuckles a little bit. Right. It makes you wonder how it's going to play with the wind, especially if he's kicking into it.
It's not going to cut it like a sparrow will. You're
right.
Saying. Yeah, you got to see how it reacts. You haven't really had this guy.
Right.
One of the things I find interesting, and I did not know this before looking and breaking this game down, Nebraska is second from the bottom in length of kickoffs. Only one team, and you never want to be by this team. It's Purdue. They're the only one that has shorter overall kickoffs than Nebraska. Only 2 teams in all the Big Ten are averaging fewer than 60 yards a kickoff, and Nebraska and Purdue are the only 2. Which means they're going to get a chance to return the kickoff.
They will get a chance, and if Nebraska is having to kick off into the wind, do they just opt to go for deep squib kicks?
Or squibbing,
instead of trying to get it in the air, because you related the story from last year, the Rutgers game, where we were watching them kick into the wind. And remember, Hull was doing the kickoffs last year as well, where that ball couldn't even make the 15-yard line. And today's very similar conditions. So I do wonder if that is something they have had in the back of their mind. And now you've got a brand new special teams coordinator who's really good at his job in Mike Eckler. I've got to imagine they've got some kind of a plan drawn up if they're kicking off against the wind.
If Alvano could guarantee to not kick the ball out of bounds, I believe in terms of kickoffs from what I've watched, he kicks it farther than the other 2 guys. So if he could make sure he wasn't going to kick out of bounds, I think that he'd be the guy you'd want for your kickoff. Because as good as they've been with their field goal kicker, he hasn't been a deep kickoff guy. And Hull also has kicked the ball out of bounds twice.
Yes.
So it makes you wonder how you're going to do that.
Presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust, and Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. Nice crowd today here at the Blur Events tailgate.
About 400 people you expecting today.
Yeah, 400 people today. And remember, if you've got a small group or maybe your business wants to do an outing at a Husker game, even if you don't have tickets to the game, maybe get a hold of Blur Parties and schedule your event here, because they keep this thing going even after the game as well. So if you want to stay over here and just watch the game, and I believe they get the direct feed from Husker Vision, so it's not as delayed a feed, so you don't get spoiled by the crowd.
Something's happening.
That's one of the –
Something's happening.
when we did those 2 Big Red overreactions last year out in the North Bottoms, and Josh and I, or Connor and I, had to leave early, that was the one thing that was really distracting, is the people that would have their tailgate set up watching the game, but you would hear the crowd reaction.
You knew it was coming.
About 10, 15 seconds before the actual play happened. So I don't think they have that problem here.
That's pretty cool, but there's no way it's even. There's got to be at least a couple seconds.
There probably
delay.
is.
There has to be.
There probably is, but it's not 15. So
yeah,
you just gotta hope for that. You
Well,
hope that the crowd has a lot to cheer for.
I remember running over to, we used to do stuff at the hotel back in the day when I was with paper, and the Janovich run. And the place just exploded against Wisconsin. And we're like, what the hell? We're running, and we got in somebody's backyard. And we were watching through the TV, through the windows, like, oh, it was Jano. Oh, my God. Yeah, it was huge.
Well, unfortunately, Nebraska did not win that game.
No, they did not. No, they did not.
It's still 31-22 Cincinnati with 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Wisconsin has gotten a field goal to pull to within 14.
And they tried an onside kick. It didn't get it.
Yeah, so looks like Michigan's going to hold on. And Purdue's put up 27 today against Illinois. Now, we know Illinois is not the greatest defense in the world, but it's 40-27. And let's see, is Illinois? Yeah, Illinois got the ball. So
Purdue's are better, man. I mean, even
they are better.
Watching them against Notre Dame, and I know it was going to be been kind of a blowout, they moved the ball really well. That's why I think Notre Dame today, and I know it's a huge line and people are expecting to blow out Boise, I think Boise's going to be able to put up some numbers. Yeah. I think they will, and I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game.
Well, when we come back here for our final segment here at the Blur Events tailgate, we are going to have our keys to the game.
Yeah!
We also will have our picks to click, and we'll discuss how we did 2 weeks ago. Michael used his first-round pick long before the show even aired, but I'm going to try to institute a new rule this week with picks to click. I'll see if Michael agrees. Participating sponsors of 1620 The Pregame are the Sedora Law Group. Your outcome depends on what you do next. And by Blur Parties, see how Blur makes every moment a party at blurevents.com. We'll be back for a final segment of 1620 The Pregame right after this on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg are live from Lincoln. Now back to 1620 The Pregame.
Presented by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust. ChandlerConway.com and Blur Parties. Learn more about all their events and future tailgates at blurevents.com. I'm knocking on wood right now.
What's going on?
I'm hoping that the large traffic jam isn't as bad as it's been the last two games.
Stopped right there.
Oh, okay, never mind. I spoke too soon.
They're stopped, but it's not as bad as last week.
It's not. Last week it was backed up beyond us.
Yeah.
For those of you not familiar, we're on the east side of Memorial Stadium. We are literally right under the southbound lanes of I-180 coming into Lincoln, which makes for a nice cover so we don't have to worry about the sun. But
isn't this the song that Eric Crouch sang about?
What's that?
Doesn't he have a song called Under the 10th Street Bridge?
Probably.
Yeah, I believe he did.
Okay.
It was his Heisman song.
But everybody, because there's a lot of tailgate lots here underneath like we are, but there's also a whole bunch more over at Haymarket Park. And everybody that crosses has to cross right over here just to the southwest of the stadium. And the human backup of people
it's incredible.
is absolutely enormous.
You had a huge moment gambling-wise in Michigan, Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Michigan was at the 4-yard line. Clock's ticking down. They're up 14, and they handed off, and they stopped them. Wisconsin stopped at the 2-yard line. So if you got the 17.5, Wisconsin, congratulations.
All right, we're going to do our keys to the game. Michael, I'll let you go first.
So I'm gonna test John's rap music knowledge when I say to John,
okay, well, that'll be the end of the show.
On my first key, whose house, John?
Rams house.
Whose house?
Rams house.
Run's house.
Oh.
Run's house.
Oh.
The team that runs the ball and stops the ball the best today is going to win this game. I know about all the passing numbers, and I know all of that. I know how Nebraska's struggled. I know how well Michigan State has run the ball. But who at the end of the day, whoever does a better job of running the ball and stopping the run will win the game. It is a Run DMC key. Number 2, you may remember this. She'll expose you when she snows you. Offer feed the crumbs she throws you. She's ferocious, and she knows just what it takes to make a pro blush. That's right. By the way, Josh Jones knew nothing about Betty Davis eyes.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Betty Davis eyes. This is all about eye discipline.
Yes.
It's all about eye discipline. When they run that stretch play, they ran 4 trick plays between Youngstown and USC. They're going to run trick plays. You got to rip at that stretch play. Watch your eyes. It's all about Betty Davis eyes. That is my second key.
That, by the way, is a sneaky good song.
How about this? She'll tease you. She'll unease you. All the better just to please you. Yeah. And he got the word precocious. Yes. She got precocious in him.
Yes, she did.
Which is incredible.
Yes,
and my third one is, John, what do you call a trip that has a beginning but no end?
An endless journey.
It is a waste of damn time. And Nebraska.
Wait, is this a what's that movie or the walking movie that we hate?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
No. This is not that movie.
Okay.
This is about finishing drive rate. If you're going to start a drive, finish it. Nebraska 5 times this season has had a successful drive that's gotten the red zone and got 0 points. Not even close. 1 time Michigan State has happened to. 5 times Nebraska is at the bottom of the Big Ten in terms of finishing drive rates on drives that reach the 20-yard line. Good at getting the 40, not getting an end zone. You've got to get touchdowns. You've got to finish the drives or you're wasting your damn time.
My first key is contain, and that is Aiden Childs.
Oh, yeah.
His sack-adjusted yards averaging 8 yards a carry. But on his designed runs, he's had 18 of those this year. He's averaging 7 yards a carry. Now, I don't think Michigan State can win only with his legs. But similar to how Sorsby was able to keep Cincinnati alive with his legs, I think Childs has the ability to do the same thing. I think there's kind of a sub-key to this. First thing is force 3rd and longs. Yep. But then the second thing is when you are rushing, you've got to keep lane discipline. We had a great vantage point sitting at the press box up in Arrowhead because one thing you were able to see from where we were sitting in those fourth quarter runs was how Nebraska's rush discipline wasn't good enough, and there was openings in the middle between the center and the guard where Sorsby had that first long run of his game. So make sure when you do rush today in those obvious situations that you keep those rush lanes disciplined and you don't give him that easy escape route. Lean on your secondary today even if he has an extra second or two of time, lean on your secondary to continue to cover. It's better that he gets off a pass than he takes off with his feet, because if he takes off with his feet, there's a good chance he's going to make some yards. So he's got to contain.
Stop running Mike's stunts. Stop running stunts. Quit doing that. Every time they run the damn stunt, they get beat for a big play.
And that's what happened against Underwood 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Second key, you got to just be yourself. I think this offense is going to be able to do basically whatever it wants, especially through the air, even with the wind blowing all night long. Michigan State does not rush the passer. Their pressure rate is really, really low. Michael likes running the ball early.
Yeah.
I don't mind it if they pass to set up the run. I think they can have success maybe with a little bit of both. And let's see what new wrinkles Dana Holgorsen has come up with for the running game that he alluded to earlier this week. But I think if Nebraska's offense can just be itself, they'll be just fine. And then going back to net punting, got to swish the net. Do not get destroyed in net punting like you did the last two meetings, because that was a difference in both of those games. Nebraska is top 40 in the country in net punting this year, so they've been a little bit better.
Yes. Yep.
They've been better than they have been. All right, so 2 weeks ago in our Picks to Click, Michael took Justice Haynes of Michigan.
Yes, I did.
He also took Javen Wright, who was one of Nebraska's top tacklers.
11 tackles.
So Michael got 2 points. Michael was kind to me because I had Dane Key, I had Heinrich Harburg, I had Deshaun Singleton. Singleton didn't have a huge game. Harburg did have the touchdown late, so Michael says I can have that key. So it's 6-5. Michael's had more picks to click than me. Here's the rule I want to propose.
Oh no,
and it's one that you kind of suggested. You said you do it yourself. No Dylan.
Yeah, no Dylan.
No Dylan. Neither one of us will pick Dylan the rest of the
Dylan,
season, because
right.
that's kind of an obvious one if
Right.
Nebraska's going to win. So with that said, I believe, am I picking first this week?
Yes, you are.
Okay. My first pick to click, I'm going to go with Ja'Cory Barney.
I like it.
I think maybe one of the run wrinkles could be some jet sweep.
Currently, Raiola to Barney, 76 completions over these 2 years. It is the most completions in the Big Ten among quarterback wide receiver active currently. Well, now more because Altmaier played with Beatty today, but going in today.
Okay.
Yep.
Your first pick to click.
I am going to go with Michigan State running back.
Oh!
I'm going to go with Frazier. I'm going to go with their starting Frazier, Mekhi Frazier, as my opening pin.
Wow, that's 2 weeks in a row.
Well,
And you have
if you're
gone.
not stopping the run, I got to go with the people running the ball.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Archie Wilson today. I think they're going to have. I think it's a windy day,
Yeah.
but I think he is going to have a couple of critical punts today that's going to help flip the field and help win that net punting battle, or at least push even in the net punting battle. So I'm going to say Archie Wilson today.
My brother from another mother, the guy who opens doors for me, Dane Key.
Dane Key.
Dane Key.
Okay.
Opening some doors.
Dane Key.
Yep.
My third pick to click, I'm actually going to steal a page out of your book.
Oh.
And I'm going to take someone off of Michigan State.
Okay.
Nebraska famously has not allowed a 20-yard or greater reception
That is
all
true.
year.
That is true.
I think that ends today.
Nick Marsh.
I'm going to go with Kelly.
Oh.
Because he also maybe
Yeah.
will have a punt return as
Sure.
well. He's been really good with punt return. I thought about Marsh, but I'm going to go with Omari Kelly to maybe be that first guy to get that 20-plus yard completion. Maybe it'll be for a touchdown, so I'll take a chance on him.
I am going with a guy who I think is going to get a few tackles for loss, maybe even get a sack or two with Childs running around back there. I am going with Deshaun McCullough to have a couple tackles for loss and at least one sack this week.
He might have been a pick to click last week if we would have picked him, but we did not. So there you go.
Deshaun McCullough.
So Michael's got Michigan State running back Mekhi Frazier, Nebraska receiver Dane Key, and Russia and Deshaun McCullough. I have Nebraska's Ja'Cory Barney, punter Archie Wilson, and Michigan State receiver Omari Kelly. And those are our picks to click, and now it's backing up.
And what's your score?
I went 35-10. There was a part of me that wanted to bring the point. I have brought my points down from what I would have picked earlier this week.
Me too.
Because of the wind. I thought Nebraska could get into the 40s without the wind, but I think 35-20. I think Nebraska will cover in this game. They may give up a couple more bigger plays than they have this season because I think Michigan State's offense is more balanced than they've seen in several weeks. So yeah, I think Nebraska's going to get the cover tonight, and they're not going to be sweating it out in the fourth quarter.
Michigan State's moved the ball against everybody. I know they'll move the ball. I thought the combined score would be in the 60s before the win stuff. 2 weeks ago, I said to you guys, what's the total going to be? But I think I took 34-17, 31-17, somewhere in there. I think Michigan State will get theirs, but I think Nebraska combined against what Michigan State fails to do defensively is enough to make some hay and win it and walking away.
Hey, don't forget, we'll be back here. Well, it'll be a while. It'll be at the end of the month.
That's right.
When Nebraska takes on Northwestern. Next 2 weeks, Nebraska will be on the road at Maryland and at Minnesota.
Yes.
Want to thank Jake Janicek, our producer back in Omaha. Want to thank Nick Grimm, our producer here on site. And a reminder that today's show brought to you by Chandler Conway, Nebraska personal injury lawyers you can trust. Stay tuned to 1620 The Zone right after the game. Matt McMaster, Connor Happer have Big Red Overreaction, a complete recap, and your thoughts on tonight's game, Nebraska and Michigan State. Broadcast today is on FS1 starting at 3 o'clock. For Michael Severe, I'm John Bishop. Have yourselves a great Nebraska football game day, and we will talk to you on Monday on Unsportsmanlike Conduct here on 1620 The Zone. So long, everybody.